Okay, so we are recording now. Welcome, everybody. Glad to see everybody. Got some folks we haven't seen in a while and some new folks. So, Leslie, I know you've been here before, but you want to introduce yourself? We have a lot of new folks.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Leslie King. I'm a lieutenant colonel in the Arizona Army National Guard. I lead the Cyber Joint Task Force on the full-time side. I'm the OIC for that. And we are authorized to tasked with doing vulnerability assessments at all echelons of state government, county, and city, town, municipality, and also recently, well, almost 9 months ago, 10 months ago, do vulnerability assessments for all K-12 public and charter schools in the state of Arizona in an opt-in basis. So that's what we do, and glad to be here. Sorry, Steve, haven't been able to be here very often, but anything we can do to assist, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. And of course, Leslie, you have a working relationship with Homeland Security, with Ryan at Homeland Security.
Check. Yeah, Ryan and I work closely together on a couple of different projects. I also, cybersecurity is all about partnerships. And so we have partnerships with, obviously, the Governor's Office of Secretary of State this year is very big for us with election security. So we're assisting in that space. Also work with DPS and FBI. But mostly my reporting is directly only to the TAG, not to the other agencies.
Yeah. So obviously you're doing very important stuff these days. Getting pretty wild out there. Well, it's always wild out there, but getting worse.
I don't know how many people track Volt Typhoon, but lately the big thing has been cybersecurity within critical infrastructure. It's been identified that the CCP and the PLA, the Chinese, have been dropping malware inside critical infrastructure, primarily targeting the military logistical supply chain, but also throughout critical infrastructure. So those are both areas that Ryan and I are highly focused on trying to figure out what's going on and what can we do to maintain the security of the state of Arizona.
Well, and of course, there's a lot of activity going on at the federal level also regarding cybersecurity.
I'm sure I don't know anything.
Infrastructure.
Yes.
At least we think so, right?
we hope so. No, I've listened in on several of the. In fact, last week there was a huge testimony before the House on Chinese activity subcommittee. Director Easterly from CISA, General Nakasone from the Cyber Command, Director Ray from the FBI, and Director Coker from the Executive Cyber Advisory Board, all testifying before the House on
yeah, I saw that.
cyber activity. Actually, I don't usually watch those things because I find them to be extremely boring. But it was actually fairly interesting. There were some important things that were said in that conversation.
Thank you. So right now, as you said, that a lot of the focus is on critical infrastructure, but doesn't mean that the rest of the world is not vulnerable.
No.
Thank you, Leslie. Good to see you. And Oris, you want to just say hello? It's good to see you back.
Sure, Steve. Yeah, this is Oris Friesen. I'm Secretary of ATIC, and I've been involved in broadband before it was called broadband.
Really?
I've been, and yeah, so that's my role right now.
Great. We're glad to have you back, Oris.
Thank you.
Yep. And so, Judy, do you want to introduce yourself, please? Speaking of federal government.
Hi, I'm Judy Soltrep, and I'm here on behalf of the senator with Senator Mark Kelly's office. And and I'm on his state staff, and one of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that the state has broad support at the federal level to try to get this rolled out and make sure that everybody has what they need, and then do some reporting back to the senator. So kind of a listen and learn, and I'll try to get you federal updates. I'll make sure we have something for you. And yeah, just happy to be here and be part of, I know this is a very important group, and so I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. I don't know if you want to say anything or know anything about what's happening with ACP. I mean, who knows what's happening in Congress these days, but you hearing anything, any drums?
You know, I know that the senator, along with some other senators, sent a letter. He signed a letter of support back, I think it was in November. So I can't give you an update today because I wasn't prepared. Sorry about that.
That's fine. I didn't mean to put you on the spot today, but yeah.
There's, you know, with all the border activity, and our meeting this week centered on border issues. And so, yeah, I didn't ask those questions at our all staff meeting, but I will let the group know, and maybe Steve, I can send you an update if we haven't, you can get it out to the group.
Sounds good. So while Judy mentioned that about federal updates, I was going to mention it later, but I'll mention now that I am adding to our agenda federal updates. And so Drew Gardner, I don't know if Drew's on. I didn't get a chance. I didn't look at the list yet. Whether Drew is online with the Benton Foundation, but he is a federal policy person with the Benton Foundation, and so whenever he's available, he'll be attending the meetings, and he has in the past, and will give us an update. And then, although Mala, I don't know if you're online yet. Of course, Mala does that pretty regularly. So I want to do a section specifically, and of course we get NTIA updates from Nicole, but I want to specifically put a section for federal updates. So with that, David, although you've been here before, but I'm gonna introduce you and Harry a little bit later. So we're not gonna do that right now. Let me see, anybody else? Manny, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a long time.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, it's been a very busy days and months for us here in the school district. So I think all the directors, IT directors at the school districts are feeling it too. But yeah, I'm here, Steve, as always. It's a pleasure to be here and hear everyone. Thank you.
Awesome. And while we're speaking of schools, Joy, are you still there? Joy Whiting?
Yes, I'm still here.
So you want to say hi?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm Joy Whiting. I'm the Apache County School Superintendent. I appreciate Steve and this team for everything that they have done for Apache County and the schools and for me personally. And I'm just glad to be here. Sorry I haven't been here for a long time, but I always enjoy learning from this group.
We're always glad to have you back. Good to have you back, Joy.
Thank you.
We have anybody else that's new today? I don't think so. Anybody I missed? Okay, well, let's get into the agenda this morning. And just a reminder that after the meeting, if you're so inclined, that we do kibitzing with colleagues. And so we stop the recording, and just anybody who wants to discuss things or ask questions or wants to something to share, it's the opportunity to do that. And we might have one person, we might have 5 people, we might have 10, it might last 10 minutes, it might last an hour. So it's just really an informal opportunity to discuss some things. So moving on to the agenda this morning. So as I mentioned, just that I am going to start the federal updates section later on in the meeting today. Yeah. Excuse me. And then let's do any updates with the broadband office. I know Aaron, you're kind of the lead on that. Not sure who else is online. I think Vanessa is here today. Haven't looked at who else is here.
Steve, there is a phone number there that it's causing noise in the background. I think
Oh,
there's
yeah. Yep. Yeah, good. I'll mute him. Thanks, Manny.
So I don't know if that was the invitation to start talking, but I'm going to start talking.
Yes, it was.
Hi, I'm Erin Lorandos. I am the Digital Equity Program Manager at the Arizona Commerce Authority. And yes, there are a couple other folks from the broadband team on the call. I'm just going to do a quick digital equity update, and then I believe Sandeep is going to provide our BEAD update for this week. So my update is that not too much has changed since last week. We are still wrapping up the final edits based on our public comment period on the digital equity plan. I appreciate everyone in this group who took the time to read that document and provide your feedback from your personal experience as well as your organization's experiences. We did receive quite a few public comments. There were a couple of folks who submitted 2 comments and we combined everything together, and I think we ended up at about 43 individual comments. So that's not horrible. That's good representation across the state, good representation of, you know, different organizations, and we were happy with that. And so we are integrating as necessary the comments, changing language where we need to, updating, you know, things like the asset inventory and whatnot. And we're wrapping that all up this week. Our plan, our next draft of the plan, the final draft, if you will, is due to NTIA on Monday. However, many people in our office will be traveling to Philadelphia on Monday, so it is our goal to submit it by the end of the day tomorrow. So we can watch the Super Bowl as well.
Now we get to the truth.
Maybe that's my personal addition to that part of the comment, but in any case, that is the plan. And so we are on track to do that. And then what happens next with the plan is it sits with NTIA for a 45-day curing process, which is similar to what happened with the BEAD proposal, where there is still some back and forth with NTIA if there are, you know, other comments or suggestions or recommendations that they'd like to make. And then our final plan will be submitted by the end of March. And that's when we also expect to hear more about the next stage of the process, which is the capacity grant application. And so as we learn more about those next steps, we will of course be sharing that with this group. But I think that that's what I've got for today, unless there are questions for me.
Any questions for Erin? If not, Sandeep, I'm sorry I missed that you were online. So you're on.
No problem, Steve. Thank you, Erin, for the digital equity update. Good morning, everyone. This is Sandeep Bhowmik, State Broadband Director. Nothing majorly changed since last week, but I'll still recap what we are working on. The BEAD challenge process map is currently under construction. So we contracted with a company called Sunborn AppGeo. They have a platform where it's a cloud-based mapping platform where the communities, ISPs, nonprofit organization can submit a challenge on our behalf. On the community's behalf, and the state will execute those challenge processes. Currently, we are using the BSL Fabric version 3.2, and as well as any existing federal funding data will be implemented there. We will be hosting a couple of webinars from February 20th. So we divided the whole group into 4 different segments. One is for ISPs, one is for nonprofits, one is for local government, and one is for tribal government. So anyone in this call who are from nonprofits are most welcome to join those webinars, because you are eligible to submit a challenge process on behalf of a community. And please let us know. I will be able to send you all the information regarding the webinars, and that will also be posted on our website. So feel free to register and participate. So, and there will be second set of webinars on month of March that will be specifically related to the tool. So the Sunborn and AppGeo team will present how to submit challenge using the tool. And both of this webinar will be recorded and posted on ACA website so that you can access that and you you can submit challenge. Those are the major update from the staffing purposes. State Broadband Office is currently going through multiple interview, and we very soon will be finalizing the position of the Community Engagement Manager and Senior Broadband Program Manager. And the Deputy Director position is still open. So if you know someone, please feel free to forward the job description, which I posted on last webinar, or reach out to us. We'll send you the job description. And looking forward. That's all I have, Steve.
Thanks, Sandy. So I'm sorry I missed your call last night and would like to
No
chat
worries.
with a couple of things when you
May I ask a quick question?
go ahead, Rory.
Yes, sorry.
Sandy, we discovered yesterday that one of the data sources for the challenge process is based on Ookla and MLab's data. And it's random data that's picked up from customers using, just doing their own speed tests. The problem we have, and that we discovered yesterday, is because we put out so many 10 meg packages during COVID, that's a lot of the data that's being used for the actual speed for areas. So basically areas that we've got 300 meg coverage in, we're seeing speeds of 15 meg as an average for those areas. How do we kind of get past that particular problem?
Rory, that's a great question. Just an FYI, Rory, we are not doing a speed modification challenge process here in the state. So the 512 phone number, if you can mute yourself, that would be great.
Okay, I didn't beat me to it. Okay.
I'll just go ahead. So Rory, a lot of other states, they are using the historical data from the speed test in this whole challenge process. We are not doing it. We are working on the real-time speed test data. That means there will be a speed test module which will be published on the AppGeos platform, and any resident here in Arizona, citizen here in Arizona can take that test, but there are some requirement in there. So the test they need to be connected with hardware with their modem, and they need to take the test from there. So in that case, we can check the full bandwidth, check their IP addresses and everything. And there is a slew of privacy information which is copied in there. They need to agree before they take this test. They also need to take this test 3 times in a single day to make sure it's getting counted in the challenge process. I can send you all these modules, what we are following, but the one you just mentioned, that is the historical data from Ookla and MLab, we are not doing that modification here in the state of Arizona.
Real-time data, though, keep in mind that a lot of those plans that were instituted, these are like, for example, the $10 plans, but WISPs in general, and most ISPs have different tiers of services. So a lot of our customers are still on 25 megs. They can take the test all day. They're not going to get over 25 meg. And so that skew, even though the area itself might be, it's because of what they want to pay for or have, grandfathered in. We're trying to get everybody to go to 100 meg packages, but even again, that data then still is not going to be accurate, even with the test process that you have, because those are the plans that these people are on.
That's a great point, Rory. Can we circle back later on this? I would love to set up a meeting with you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, anything else for Sandy? Sandy, is there anybody else on your team? I'm sorry, go ahead. Who is that?
I just wanted to ask, what are we, for the challenge process, we'll be using which speed test? Is it the FCC speed test, the Ookla speed test? Which one?
Michelle, was that you? Michelle, was that you that was speaking?
Yes, that was me too. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. The speed test data, I wouldn't call it a speed test data because that would be misrepresentation. On the ACA website on March 1st, there will be a speed test module. Yes, it's by Ookla. So we are integrating the Ookla speed test on the website, and the resident will take the test on real time. All of these data, anytime any resident of any citizen of Arizona from a household perspective, not from business, are taking this test, and it's a 3-time in one single day. I can send you the notes, or sorry, the guidelines. Once they take this test, it goes to the respective county, and the county officials will accumulate those data at the end of the challenge process and actually submit that to us as a full binding challenge. So yes, it's not a direct UCLA test from speedtest.net or somewhere. It will be, the module will be posted on our website, and the resident need to take the test from there.
Okay, great. So one more question. When
Yeah.
again will that be posted to your website?
Michelle, that will be, so the challenge process will open on March 1st. So if you go back and look into our volume 1, we talked about keeping the challenge process open for 30 days. The way it's written on volume 1 right now, the challenge process is for 30 days, 30 days for rebuttal from the ISPs, because we are challenging an ISP, not we, the challenger will challenge an ISP. So they will have a time frame to rebuttal this whole challenge. And there is 1 month time to execute on our side that if it's a valid challenge or a valid rebuttal. Based on the public comment, we changed it a little bit. So what we did, we went back to the drawing board. We actually kept the challenge process open for 60 days. So March and April will be the challenge process window. ISPs will have 15 days to rebuttal. So, and it's going to be in a rolling in process. That means if you are submitting on a challenge on March 15th, that whole challenge process will be rerouted to the ISPs on the same day, basically at the same time automatically. And the ISPs will have 15 days to rebuttal on that whole challenge process, whole challenge submission. And so if you see from that perspective, March and April, the challenge process will be open. From May 1st to May 15 will be the last day to submit the rebuttal of those challenges. And May 15 to June 15th would be the state broadband office's time when we will evaluate this challenge process and finalize that which challenges are valid or which rebuttals are valid. So we tried to make sure in this whole process, the community, unserved and underserved community, is getting maximum amount of time. So if you look into any other state, you will see there are only a handful of states who are allowing 60 days challenge. 90% of the states are mostly going with 30 days challenge. So that was an initiative which it was taken based on the comment from the community during volume 1.
So that's awesome. So expect the tools to be available after March 1st is what you're saying? For the speed test
March,
tool?
on the day of March 1st.
Great. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sandeep, are you going
Yes.
to, do you have your own UCLA servers that you're going to be using, or are you going to be using the ones that UCLA direct you to when you try to make
Hard to hear you, Roy.
Sorry, my apologies. Are the UCLA, does the state have its own UCLA server, or are you going to be using the ones that UCLA directs you to when you do a test?
Yes, we are actually putting, we are not using our own server, but the application, the AppG or Sunborn application we are using, that will read out the speed test to the local server to maximize the speed test so that we are getting as close as possible data from the ISPs.
Okay, so I mean, obviously, you know, we monitor that pretty heavily. We've even had to put our own servers in for this reason. Servers vary based on load in terms of their
Absolutely.
actual abilities. Okay, which you know. Okay,
Yep.
wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. And Rory, just to add, I mean, it's not like a blind challenge. So once the challenger submit a challenge, you will still, or ISPs will still have time to rebuttal that challenges. And we can go back and forth, request additional information from both challenger and the challenges and finalize from there. So state the amount of funding we have been clearly instructed by NTIA not to overbuild in an area where there is an existing connectivity. I know that can take off areas where communities probably expecting fiber, but that's how the BEAD funding is going to get unfold. And we have been told not to overbuild in an area where there is an existing connection already.
Yeah, which obviously wasn't followed through, but by RDOF or CAF. So that's the
Right.
problem. So wonderful. Okay, well, listen, we'll be looking forward to talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandeep, Mark Goldstein, good morning.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Good, thank you. My birthday week or month here, so
Happy birthday, Mark.
thank
Great
you.
to have you. You're a great supporter and great friend. We always appreciate that here in your state broadband office.
And Aaron just posted a floating set of cakes, so thank you, Aaron. Question about enforceable commitments.
Right.
Are you expecting beyond known grants that have been made to negotiate with providers for guaranteed deployment in areas? Would that comprise, if an ISP comes to you and says, I'm willing to commit contractually to build in an area, is there a process that would accommodate those as enforceable commitments?
Yes. So to give you an example, real life example, Mark. So we had close to 20 RDOF winner here in Arizona, or probably a little bit over that. I'm not sure. We reached out to each of them separately. We only heard back from 3 RDOF provider without naming the name. We are working with them since last quarter of last year. And we went through what we need to establish those areas as an enforceable commitment. They did take some areas off, which financially does not make sense for them to deploy broadband here in Arizona, or already we deployed broadband in those areas with our ABDG $100 million grant. So they're working with us right now. They're giving us their map, not, as you probably know, that RDOF is on census block level. They're giving us their map on the BSL level, where they're connecting this household. And they're giving us their financial data. They're also giving us their permitting request, what they have requested. After reviewing all of these, we'll be signing an enforceable commitment agreement with them. It's not mandatory, but that actually helps the state broadband office to establish this with the community, that these are the organizations who are building in this area, and we are not overbuilding using the BEAD money in this area, because that is definitely, I have to communicate that with communities, county supervisor association, counties, as well as the cities. So that's our process. So there is an enforceable commitment section in the BEAD guidelines. We are following that, but also adding some of the secret sauces on our side, that what document they need to submit before this sign an enforceable commitment agreement with us. Same thing for any private investment. We have some private investment came here in the state through some venture capital firm in Gila County. So we are taking off almost 3 cities from there. Those are going to be fiber to home project. So we are carefully reviewing that. And NTIA also released a set of federally funded project here in the state of Arizona. We are reaching out to them as well to make sure that we're not overbuilding on top of any RUS grant, or we are not overbuilding on top of any private investment, as well as any other federally funded data. As you probably all know, that Yavapai County, they did 4 grants and connecting 4 of their communities with last mile. So we're in coordination with them and reaching out to them to get that map as well. That will not only do that will not only avoid any kind of overbuilding on our state, also maximize the broadband or BEAD funding we have in the state. Not to mention any ABDG project will be taken off. You will see that in the challenge process, that will not be considered as part of the BEAD eligible areas. So all these factors are going into this challenge process module.
Great, thank you. Helpful.
Thank you,
So
Mark.
Paul Ross, did you want to comment what you put in the chat?
Yeah, sorry. I was wondering why we're not having our own data collection system like the speed test, but also with some other metrics added to it, because it just feels like we should be collecting some other metrics that would be very important for the state. I think Rory makes some really valid points in terms of affordability, but in the speeds that people are currently signing up for. I know for my household, it's all controlled by budget. So therefore, I've only signed up for a particular level of service, and I'm never going to get those 100 megs because it's not affordable. and it's not necessarily what I need right now. So I'm just wondering why we're not doing that, because I think I've seen some other states stand up their own measurement collecting system, and they're sort of added those additional values that they need for their own state to be able to provide a much more detailed view of what the reality is out there.
So Paul, I'm not exactly so coming back to Rory's question, I got a quick answer about that. So anyone who's subscribing 10 meg in your household, but your network, Rory, I'm going back to your question. So anyone who's subscribing 100 meg in your home, but the network is capable of doing 1 gig, we can actually, I just send a quick text to our AppGeo team who are building this network and who will be integrating this speed test. Actually will have capabilities to extract the data, what is the maximum speed provided to that household, and what exactly we are getting. So Rory, that erases any kind of concern you have from your side that how this speed test is going to be a factor. So if your network is capable of delivering 300 Mbps in that particular household, we can extract that data from the speed test, that what is the maximum amount of speed will be delivered and what exactly they are getting in their household. So we will take the data from what network can deliver, not exactly what they are getting in their household level.
You couldn't get that on our network, Sandeep. Why network? There's no way for you to get that information from our system. I can see you doing that with the cable providers and probably the DSL providers, but no wireless provider could give you that information. You could not extract that information remotely.
Okay.
That's not possible.
Okay, I think that's an additional conversation then we have to have with you to make sure that we are integrating that or how we are going to evaluate that data.
We could help you do that. Just you don't have that ability without the company helping you set that up.
Okay, sure. So I think that would be great if Rory, we can do some testing on that end before we open up the challenge process, because we don't want the misrepresented data on our system when we are executing this challenge process request. Rory, I'll get back to you. Let me go back to Paul's question. So Paul, when you are saying that some other states are building their own system, there are states who are building their own system. And there are some states who are buying the speed test module or the challenge process module off the shelf. There is technically no difference. Some states thought that with the limited fund they have, without naming anyone, the thought process, what I heard from my other colleagues from different states, with the limited funding they have, it would be wise for them to build something in-house. However, the state who has close to $1 billion and a lot of challenge processes to execute, or this based on the state size or number of unserved and underserved household, most of those states are going with an off-the-shelf modules, which we are doing right now. When it comes to the NTI guideline, they are following the same exact module what we are following exactly here. We mentioned on volume 1. Otherwise, NTI would not have approved our volume 1, that how we are running our challenge process. So I personally don't see any distinction between these two. And a speed test is not only going to be one factor for this whole challenge process. A speed test is just one factor out of the total 13 other data set which can be submitted for the challenge as well as the rebuttal. So ISPs and both challenger will have multiple avenue to submit challenge in this process. I would say that a speed test going to be probably the most one of the least important part in this challenge process, because we are not using the historical data, because that misrepresent a lot of the ISP's network upgrade happened in last couple of months. So we are making sure that we are not using that. A lot of other states are using that, the past 120-day historical speed test data. What we are saying that as per the NTI guideline, residents have to take the 3 tests in one single day to make it a validated count. Also, in a particular geographical area, 80% of the resident need to take that test before even we take that off from the map as a BEAD eligible area. So there are multiple back and forth. The ISPs can also submit as a rebuttal a picture of their equipment, what they're serving, what they're using, and where their tower locations are, and we can take their areas off. So there is a whole slew of team will be working in this process, and we are following the NTIA guideline. So that would be my response to that. And again, going back to developing a separate module, we could have done by ourselves, but with the amount of unserved and underserved population we have and timeline we have, it was a better decision for us to go ahead and get something off the shelf, which will perform the same way for the other state who are building their module by themselves.
Yeah, no, thanks for the
So,
very
I'm sorry,
detailed
Paul.
explanation.
Paul, okay. So Paul, I'm going to cut off the discussion because we have other things to cover today. But Sandeep, one of the things that I'll want to talk to you about offline, we talked last time about doing a study session like we did. I know you mentioned that you're planning on doing some webinars on this issue, but I would like for us to talk about doing a study session like we did last time. Obviously, as you can see, there's a lot of things people want to talk about. So I just want to get on to other things because we have other things to cover today.
So,
Go ahead, Sandy.
I see a question from Mala. 80% of the resident doesn't need to take the speed test on the same day. We can post the challenge process guideline here. What I'm saying that at the end of this 60-day period, the 80% of the resident need to take that area off from the BEAD challenge process. They don't need to take it at the same time or same day or something like that. And all of these was conveyed to CSA and the counties, and we are working directly with leagues of cities and the cities so that they can encourage their resident to take this test. Again, going back, Paul, I think you will be eligible to sit on those challenge process webinar because you are from a nonprofit organization. I can send you the link. I think it would be great to have you there so that we can discuss and clarify a lot of this question. That would be a step-by-step process. Like we will start from what the challenge process is, how the modules were being set up, and what data we are collecting in this process. And we can go from there. So Paul, happy to have you there on the nonprofit challenge process webinar. And Rory, would love to get back to you on the topic you just mentioned. You are right. We can actually collect that data from cable, fiber, or any kind of like hardware connectivity, but it would be hard for us to collect that data from the WISP side. So I would like to see that how we can find out a solution that will work for both, not only your ISP, any other WISP service here in Arizona. And we are not getting the data or reviewing the data, which is a sort of misrepresentation. So Rory, if that's okay, I'll send you a meeting request and we'll go from there.
Okay. And I'm going to, as soon as we get the dates for those webinars, that I will post them. Got the notice yesterday, but the dates, I don't know if the dates were posted in the Times, Sandeep.
Yeah. So
Maggie, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sandeep.
Maggie, I was saying the same thing. Maggie already sent out an email, save the date. That doesn't have any Zoom link yet because we are still creating it. But once the Zoom links are finalized, I'll send you an email along with the Zoom links. My only request to all of you here will be, please participate into your designated webinar. Designated webinar means if you are on ISP or if you are on the local government side or nonprofit side, please sign up for that. The challenge process, submission process is exactly same for everyone, but there is still a little bit tweak between all of this particular group. So it would be easy for you to understand the process and easy for us to make sure that we are providing the right information.
So Steve, Maggie has announced the dates, but not the times in the message.
Yes, so I did include that in my notice that went out yesterday, and I will, as soon as we get that information, I will post it. Okay, we need to move on. Sandeep, thank you for being here. When you get a chance next day or so, give me a call back and hopefully we can chat for a little bit.
We can talk about this whole day, right, Steve?
Yep. Yep. Okay,
Thank
let's
you.
move on. Let's move on. And I want to just get into our resource highlight today. The City of Mesa's wired and wireless broadband initiatives, including their free public Wi-Fi project. And we do have with us today David Crasa. Is that how you pronounce your name, David?
Crasa.
Crasa,
Close
who's the
enough.
project manager for their free public Wi-Fi project in Mesa, and Harry Meyer,
Meyer. Yep.
Meyer, who's the deputy CIO for innovation. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and they are very passionate about their wireless solution. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. I'll stop sharing if you guys need to share something.
Sure thing. I'll just kick it off a little bit. That I'm not going to just talk about wireless. We really wanted to step back and talk about the big picture of digital equity and broadband penetration in urban setting. And a lot of these conversations center around just getting connectivity to places and people who have never seen a wire before. But in the urban setting, we have very different challenges. We have incumbent providers that have been here for years. We have, even going back pre-pandemic, we had a fairly good penetration of high-speed connectivity. But when our current mayor started office, this was going back pre-pandemic, one of the first things he said was, we want to make sure that broadband was ubiquitous throughout the city. And he approached the IT department looking for what we were doing about it. And we had already commissioned studies and were ahead of that game, and that just lit a fire under us and let us run with it. And then when the pandemic hit and some federal funds started coming down, we were primed and ready. So I wanted to do a little presentation. I'll try to go quick. There's a lot to share of all the different things and approaches that Mesa has been taking. And hopefully, as you'll see, we've taken a holistic smart city approach of cooperation across our city departments and with the public and with the private sector and the nonprofits to just try to get everybody connected. So with that, I'll try to share here. See if it works. Everybody seeing that?
Yep.
All right. So this was the outlook in 2020. We talk a lot about maps, and maps will be prominent in my presentation here today. But mapping was one of the first things we went to. Where is the need? And so I have an all-star team of GIS folks that just were quickly able to turn data into nice representations of what the challenge really was. And so the first thing we noticed was there's a definite band of need through the center of the city. So what you're seeing here is layers of the CDBG, housing and urban development, low, medium, moderate income census tracts from going back to 2015. The layer of Mesa Public Schools family internet need done from surveys at the peak of the pandemic lockdowns in 2020, and U.S. Community Survey census data from 2017 that was, I think, one of the first times they really asked the question of U.S. communities about their internet access. So you can see, you know, there's a pretty clear density of families in need from the school surveys going across the. This is mostly the western end of Mesa. Our downtown area is in the center there. The blue dots are where we had Wi-Fi at the time, and this was during the pandemic. We quickly cooperated with between our IT and transportation departments. The transportation department had some connectivity out to traffic signals where they put Wi-Fi hotspots just for their technicians to have connectivity while they worked on traffic signals. So we lit those up with public access. So we had Wi-Fi at those traffic signal intersections. Not a great spot to have free Wi-Fi, but it was something. Again, it was pandemic. People tried everything, but the hash areas are where the U.S. Community Survey said greater than 25% of the population was reporting they had no access. Now that wasn't necessarily the case of availability of access. There was pretty good penetration from Cox and CenturyLink into those areas. We had WISPs that were providing access, but we were still seeing the families reporting. So that's where the challenge comes in an urban setting, is even though you are built out, why are those families still not getting access? So first thing we looked at was same thing everybody looks at, is the fiber. So the thought was, you know, like with all of these conversations, can we get more connectivity, more fiber into these areas, improve what we've got, and increase the competition? So again, it was all the way up through our mayor and city council. We're very keen on this. I'll try a short video here, but you'll see that it was really considered a priority
through it. So absolutely, it has become an essential part of our day-to-day lives, and here in Mesa we want to make sure that everybody has access to that.
The role of the city of Mesa is to provide infrastructure for our citizens, to have water pipes and electric to streets, all of those things that it's impossible for you to go out on your own and provide. And broadband is clearly one of those services. So if we acknowledge that truth and we invest in getting that fiber to your front door and to your business's front door, that's going to make that service very affordable.
So what we're trying to do is figure out how we could engage in a public-private partnership. It's not feasible for the city of Mesa to spend over $500 million putting fiber to every business and home in Mesa. And the reason for the RFI, the request for information, was to see who might be interested in coming into the city of Mesa and partnering.
By putting that RFI out there, we kind of listed some goals that we had and some questions that we had. And we did have a very robust response from the private sector, to the point where, again, we feel like probably through a combination of providers, that there is enough interest in Mesa, there's enough demand for fiber-related services, that the private sector will, again, over a number of years, be able to get it everywhere.
To think that we're taking on this fiber to every home and business in the 35th largest city in the country it's like a moonshot, right? And so other communities are watching Mason, and I feel like, yeah, it's aggressive, it's ambitious, but can we do it? Yes, we absolutely can.
So that was the beginning of this. We put out an RFI that asked the private sector what it would take to get fiber to every home and business in the city. And a few of the things that came back were ease of deployment. And what were the barriers to getting that fiber to every home? We did our own study, and I think it was mentioned there, it was over $500 million. I think the estimate came in at about over $650 million to get fiber to every home and business in the city. I mean, we went in naively at the beginning thinking we have conduit already. We've got, thousands of fiber miles already for public safety and transportation and information technology resources that the city owns. How hard could it be to get that last mile? Yeah, pretty hard, as it turns out. So we started asking the private sector, what would it take? What are the barriers for you? And the answer came back that the permitting, the difficulty of getting that last mile, of getting to those homes, getting into the right of way. The process itself is just expensive, cutting into the road. So one of the topics that came up was, and one of the potential solutions was allowing for different ways of putting that fiber under the road. And you'll see that, as you see here, the response was very good. We went from the two incumbents. We actually added on 4. One dropped out because it's just too much competition at this point. And so now we are settled right now with 5 different companies actively providing fiber optic internet to city households, starting on the west end and moving east. So the first piece was microtrenching. So we are in Arizona, in the Central Valley here. We are not in an area that has earthquakes or very deep frost lines, where microtrenching becomes a concern. You can do a shortcut into the road, just go slightly beneath where we will need to grind to repave that road later, and you can lay the fiber right there. The process, I simplify it, but the process is essentially a big cutting blade and a ditch witch. And it's not highly complicated to do micro trenching. So this lowers the cost of entry. But the other part of it was with our right-of-way group, that we needed to staff up and give a lot of help to those companies that are doing this work. So we did just that. We staffed up. We introduced a way to pay extra fees to get quicker service, and the companies jumped in. So they're still going like hotcakes. This right-of-way management group we had to move them to bigger offices. It's been nonstop for them since this started. We also, I mentioned the conduits. So we have a lot of, we've run a utility for decades. So we've got a lot of old conduit that's not in use right now. We make use of that for as economic development benefit, letting companies know if they want to move a tech business to Mesa, if there's no fiber to where they're at right now, we can help make it happen. We can talk to the ISPs. We can lease out sections of conduit, make it so that they don't even have to cut into the road. This was one of the chief resources that kicked off our Elliott Technology Corridor, where we now have Apple, Google, Facebook, Meta. There's the data centers have popped up left and right down there. So this is another thing that's also run through our right-of-way management, and through our the city actually has a real estate office where we get revenue back from leasing this conduit. And then we get to the free Wi-Fi. So despite getting all of the connectivity to people through the private sector and through the making sure that we're out of the private sector's way and letting them get the connectivity in, and in a competitive way to the most community possible, there's still people who are going to fall through those cracks. So We kicked off, we had already kicked off pre-pandemic a expansion of our free Wi-Fi around the downtown square mile. And that was just under a life cycle. We have had free Wi-Fi around our downtown going back over a decade, but we were already expanding it when the pandemic hit. So with ARPA funds, we've just turbocharged that. I mentioned the spots all around the city. A lot of those are those traffic signal intersections where they just happen to have Wi-Fi already. That we've put on the at Mesa is the SSID that you'll see if you around our downtown or near one of these, and that's just available. And this map is available on our website as well. This map is actually not even up to date. There's as dense as this is around the downtown, it's even denser today. We also undertook a more directed approach of putting up CBRS private cellular towers. We talked to our partners at Cox and at the other municipalities and our radio system reps. Motorola ended up being the provider in this case, and again, the city had a lot of resources already. We had towers. The public schools partnered with us and offered real estate, and we threw up cell towers. So right now we've got 15 of these live, the yellow dots around this map. And there's a few spots on this map where you can see there's a flower of signal with no dot in the middle. That's where we are projecting another tower that will fill this in. So there is, I believe, 6 remaining to go. The one here on the east side is actually already live. The map just hasn't updated yet. There's one here at a fire station that's being outfitted as we speak. An old Cable America tower down here at Main and Southern, or Southern and Mesa, that will be able to. Yes, yeah, the towers on this map are the CBRS installations, and a few city parks will be the last 3 that go up. Parks just have a whole lot more extra regulations around the aesthetics, so they're taking a little bit of extra time and scrutiny. So those are going to be the mono palm style cell towers that have the palm fronds that are in the 3 parks. So this network is currently operational and has, I think last time I checked, close to 4,000 households connected. And the way that we achieve those numbers is through nonprofit partnership. So if I can get to the next slide, CompuDopt. So CompuDopt is a nonprofit that primarily historically worked in computer recycling. So they would collect old computers from corporations and governments, refurbish them and redistribute them to the community, sell some parts on the open market to make ends meet and get laptops into the community. In the pandemic, got a private grant of $35 million from Santander Corporation to stand up networks in, I believe, 5 U.S. cities. They did this in Dallas and Atlanta, and Mesa was their 3rd. And the reason why, a couple of reasons why they picked Mesa. One, we had a Santander site here, so there was a little bit of a synergy with their corporate sponsor, but also they were in talks with Motorola down in Texas, around the Dallas area, and we had already stood up the CBRS network here. So they were actually approaching cities looking to build their own CBRS network, and we had already started. So we signed a partnership with CompuDopt. They actually added some hardware to our cell towers to double the speed and capacity, so that we can get 50 megabit signal from those towers. And they work directly with the schools and the community to distribute those laptops, distribute CBRS routers along with them. They will do ACA signups, but that being what it is, their goal is really on the digital equity front. Get the connectivity to the people however it can come, and if they're falling through the cracks for whatever reason, here's our CBRS router. And like I said, they've found thousands of people in our community that that had a need for that. So they're still going, and we've had a ton of success working with them. They're running workshops along with Mesa Public Schools as well to do the digital literacy. That it covers the whole gamut of the digital equity conversation. We're going to skip the video on that one. So back to the Wi-Fi. We are, well, actually almost to the Wi-Fi. The next one we call middle mile. It's really that next to last mile. So one of the technologies that came up prominently as we tried to deploy Wi-Fi into these communities is that getting fiber to each and every spot where you want to put a Wi-Fi hotspot is not feasible. Just connecting one light pole with fiber can cost 5 digits easily, and that just wasn't sustainable. When we looked at wireless technologies to get that backhaul to the Wi-Fi, we found this newer technology. It was a research from Facebook that found its way into the private sector. It's called Terragraph. It's a millimeter wave technology that beams the 60 gigahertz signal about a football field length, point to point, but it creates a layer 2 mesh between those devices, so it will self-heal, route around failures, and it's multi-gigabit. So we are currently purchasing. We're in procurement for the what will be the first large-scale deployment of broadband luminaire streetlights in the world. So what you're seeing here, these dots represent Terragraph-enabled streetlights. So they will actually have this 60 gigahertz multi-gigabit radio that will shoot 360 degrees inside the light head of a streetlight. We're planning to deploy over 340 of these across this swath of Central Mesa, and that will enable that middle mile from where we have the fiber to where we want to put the Wi-Fi. It also serves other purpose. We can do direct to home with this and give a gigabit signal to the household. We're not going down there yet. We know that there is plenty of work to be done on the fiber front and with fixed household connectivity. So the city is mostly focusing on the wireless side of the things to catch the people who are falling through the cracks of fixed connectivity from the private sector. So with this network, we'll be able to not only backhaul the Wi-Fi, but also provide access for public safety for cameras and at intersections, in parks. We have a real-time crime center that can actively pull up cameras during a 911 incident and get eyes on the scene before even they're able to dispatch fire or police to a location. So this will enable a lot of those functions with that high-speed middle mile. And then lastly, the Wi-Fi. As you see, it's very similar. This is the deployment that we're working on right now. The area in the middle here, just center and north of the map of dots, is the area that's already done. That's our downtown. So this is, if you remember back from the first map, this is that swath of red where we had all those families reporting they didn't have connectivity. Well, it'll be there on the street. If they, for whatever reason, they can't get it into their home or can't afford it or are moving around, don't have a fixed address where they can sign up for a service from the private sector, it's there on the street if they need it. And that's really the key here, is to create this multi-layered net of access to catch as many people as possible who aren't able to get there. CICLU is actually the technology inside the Terragraph. So that the first square mile that we deployed with the Terragraph middle mile, we used CICLU as the hardware, and it's a little barrel style device that has the 360-degree antennas in it, and that will it is the same device. What we then did was partner with Philips Lighting, now known as Signify, and they actually embedded the CICLU equivalent to their N367 distribution node. They embedded it in the streetlight itself. So it's much more aesthetically easy on the eyes. You don't see wires going to this barrel sitting on your pole. They also have the connectivity coming right out of the light. So there's less work to deploy. Our streetlights team can mount it. And then later on, our Wi-Fi team comes by and just plugs a wire into it to power and light up the Wi-Fi AP. So that's the various things that we're doing. And with that, I will open it for more questions.
Hey, Harry, Harry, I just sent you a message. Okay, sorry. My apologies. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question about the fiber deployment. You said you have 5 fiber companies in Mesa deploying fiber to the premise. Are you using like an open access network model where these fiber companies can all deploy?
We're not.
Use fiber, or are they competing in different areas, or how is this working?
They are all competing, and for good and bad. I will say that it is the market is correcting itself in that regard. So when we first did this RFI and opened up to micro trenching, we got I think 6 different providers that were interested, including the incumbents. The one that was actually engaging with us the most was Sci-Fi Networks, and they're famous for micro trenching. I believe they've got several cities in California they've already done. In fact, those were some of the demo sites that we took our engineers to see what the differences would be with micro trenching, and Sci-Fi dropped out. It was just too much competition for them. As soon as I think it was when AT&T got involved, that's when Sci-Fi dropped out. Ubiquity, one of the other ones that is actively laying fiber, they are a neutral host provider. So that's the closest thing we've got to an open access. We do have private neutral hosts. Ubiquity is a neutral host. They had 2 ISPs that were running with them, Ting and Fiber First. Now Ting has dropped out. So there's, again, it's almost too much competition at this point, but it is it's wild to watch.
But are they competing? Like they
are.
They can't deploy fiber to the same households, right? Or
they can, and it's not as simple. I'm not an engineer to tell you what the logistics are, but we do have in the engineering standards the ability to run multiple micro trenches down the same street. They will have to bore under one another to get into the same household. But we already have incumbents that are in those households. So yeah, there is definite competition to sign up those houses, and we're seeing the private sector kind of shake itself out that way.
So yeah, it just seems to me like it's an interesting, important question about whether you should use an open access network model and deploy fiber once and let the service providers lease that fiber rather than having them try to deploy their own fiber to the same households at different times. And
yeah,
less
a lot
efficient?
of other cities have seen good success with open access networks where, yeah, you get one, one strand or a couple of strands into a household, and then you create maybe a publicly held neutral host that sublets that to the different providers. It is I'd say Mesa is a more conservative city with, more free market air to our legislation. So there was a desire to simply open it up and let the market figure it out. It's a little chaotic. I will freely admit that. Like I said, our right-of-way management group is heads down work 24/7 right now. And we are seeing some of the ISPs drop out of the race just because of the competition. But it's going as well as we could hope. We've seen just anecdotally in the neighborhoods where we have now Google and Ubiquity have lit up customers, and AT&T as well. Cox has lowered their prices upwards of 30%, and it is a competition. It's just the way that it's supposed to be, and it's a level playing field for all of those private providers.
We need to wrap up. We're about out of time, and also, Amal, I see you're still online. If you have anything you want to do an update. But Harry, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
If you can, if you want to share your presentation and send it to me, then I can share it with folks after the meeting.
Steve,
Yeah,
very
go ahead, Mama.
quickly, very quickly, I know there was some talk about, there is a lot of talk about adding cybersecurity and AZP and Wi-Fi on school buses to E-rate. While I have no opposition to that, I just want to be want to let us be cautious of the fact that there is a limited amount of money available in the E-rate pod, which is like right currently it is $4.76 billion available. Without the USF base being expanded, it's going to become more and more of an issue, and we're going to spread it out thin. We're going to have to go back to the old ways of, providing connectivity based on discount percentages, and that's, with all that's happening, I don't think that's a good idea, but it's not a sustainable option to have, ACP also be a part of E-rate. I think, much as I love the program and I'm advocating for it, I think we need to find another source. So that's one thing I wanted to say. But also, that we've received hotspot letter, mixed sign up for mixed reactions for the hotspot lending program through E-rate. Although E-rate is a well-established program, competitive bidding requiring applicants to pay their discounted share, it safeguards against wasteful spending. But just as we saw now, I think remote learning should be technology neutral. Hotspot signals are not often strong enough to support remote learning. They're not, the best of technologies to use for video streaming, and if you have multiple kids in the family, multiple users in the same household, the hotspots are not going to, make it happen. So, I listened with interest Harry's presentation, and I think we need to follow something like that, the technology neutral solution rather than hotspot lending. Additionally, hotspot lending is a lending program. It's a loan program. It's not something that the children get to keep or the families get to keep. And there's a lot of hurdles in record keeping. Who's got the hotspots? When did they return it? How long do they keep it? How are we going to track it? And, usage of it, is it getting used sufficiently? Who tracks the usage? Is it going to be the service provider or the loaner, that's the schools or libraries, and how long do they keep all that records? I mean, it's a mess. It's such a mess that many of our libraries did not participate in the hotspot lending program. And I agree that if it goes through E-rate, it has to follow all those rules. And we do need to have that record keeping burden. But if we deployed or followed Mesa's example, I think it would be a lot easier and less burdensome on the patrons who are going to use it. As it is, they have a burden of trying to learn and adopt the usage, while you and I would not be without internet access. We may go without going out for dinner or something like that. But, for those who are struggling to put food on the table, internet at high speeds, even if it is available at your doorstep, is not an option. So that's my soapbox. So I'll shut up there and
Mala, can you remind me about, so E-rate theoretically cannot serve outside of the schools or libraries, but can a municipality commit their own funds and connect to an E-rate network to be able to extend out to the community?
They can, but it needs to be cost allocated out. So the cost of trenching and all that has been already taken care of by E-rate to the anchor institutions. So they don't need to use, they can use the existing conduits and trenches to put their own fiber if they need to. So they save on the trenching costs and things like that, construction costs. But, if there is any new construction and that is going to happen, they do need to cost allocate out, because E-rate will allow only for anchor institutions. And then the cost of recurring, it's not just the cost of one-time installation, it's the recurring monthly costs that you pay for the service, which needs to be taken care of. That E-rate takes care of for anchor institution.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from Mala? We're kind of out of time for today. Any particular questions or comments before we end? And we will stay online if anybody wants to kibitz. But any final or any additional announcements anybody needs to make before we end? Going once, going twice. So Mala, I would like to have a conversation with you. I've got some thoughts that I've been playing with and wanted to chat with you.
Absolutely, no problem.
With that, so Harry, thank you very much. Good presentation. I think you sparked, and actually I'm going to want to talk with you also about what's kind of running through my brain at the moment. So with that, I'm going to stop recording